I want to welcome in our all-star political panel. They are back with us this morning. We start with White House correspondent Emerald Robinson, former Lieutenant Governor of New York Betsy McCoy, political analyst Mark Halperin, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps. Chris, nice to see you again. I wanted to show you guys a tweet that I found on CNN. This is from their verified CNN Twitter account. They were talking about basically just, what the Biden administration has been up to. We're a month into his presidency now. This is a quote. President Biden has expressed a preference for a fire built in the Oval Office fireplace. And sometimes, get this panel, he adds a log himself to keep it going. Unlike his recent predecessors, I'm sure they're talking about President Trump, he's more of an early to bed type. This coming from CNN's verified Twitter account. Mark, we'll start with you. You've been in there many, many years, and Emerald, you have as well. I read this and I thought it was The Onion. I thought it was a joke, but this is real coverage from CNN.
I had to look twice, too.
There's already been more featurey, soft, positive coverage of Joe Biden in a month of his presidency than Donald Trump got in 4 years.
Mark, this isn't featurey soft. They literally put out there that Joe likes to put a log on the fire himself. By the way, hasn't every president dating back to John Adams in the White House liked to have a fire in the White House?
I mean, look, in the scheme of things, if everything were fair and equal, coverage like this would be okay. But as I said, there's already been more of this about Joe Biden than Donald Trump got in 4 years. And the press does not hide its preferences. And half the country looks at this and scratches its head and more.
Emerald, you interact with some of these people. I mean, when you see them in the hallways, and I know that obviously it's a professional environment, but I mean, sometimes you've got to scratch your head a little bit, right? And be like, boy, did they really put that out there? Well, like Newsmax would never tweet something like that. They wouldn't tweet it if it was Donald Trump.
Yeah, people do, and I'm pretty outspoken about media coverage, and so sometimes I do pass people and you get the eye drop or, certain things like that. And I think Mark is right. If we like human interest stories, right. We really do, but we also want people to be held accountable and for there to be a standard in journalism, that it's not because it's Joe Biden, we suddenly get human interest stories, but we didn't get anything nice or fluffy or feel good during the Trump years. I also find it extremely concerning that they're not really holding him accountable. There's not a lot of coverage. And there was a moment that really stood out to me in yesterday's briefing. It clearly stood out to a lot of people because a lot of reporters were taking Jen Psaki's line and quote tweeting it like, this is the most amazing line ever. And that is when she said, she was asked about something related to former President Trump and possible prosecutions. And she said, look, we're committed to, I don't remember exactly how she said it, but that they were committed to an independent Department of Justice. Well, that's very interesting. And no one followed up with her on the fact that this DOJ hired a former lawyer or someone who was currently working at the time for the law firm that represents Hunter Biden in the ongoing investigation into possible money laundering and tax fraud. I could not believe that no one followed up on that. They installed this guy who was working at the time that Hunter Biden hired this firm. He was still working there. They hired him to head up the criminal division at the DOJ, who would essentially be responsible.
That was you literally stole my topic from me, and I'm glad you did, but that was it. Betsy, your thoughts on that? CNN and all these, CNN is yet, Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo's brother, is yet to tackle the situation happening in Albany right now. And instead of covering Joe, by the way, Emerald, you said human interest. I'm all the way with you on that. But the second part of human interest is interest. And I don't think that Joe Biden putting a log on the fire is interesting at all to anyone. I think that's just what people do when they have a fire in Washington in February. But they're not covering James Biden, the president's brother, who's under investigation. And they're sure as heck not telling us anything about Hunter Biden.
That's right. But that is CNN's definition of holding Biden's feet to the fire, that fireplace story. That's as far as they're going to go. And actually, the appointment to the criminal division of DOJ deserves a lot of coverage, totally inappropriate. And aside from a mention by the New York Post, my paper, a couple of days ago, I haven't seen any coverage of this.
Betsy, by the way, you brought up the New York Post. The New York Post is what the New York Times was 50 years ago, all of a sudden. Like they are real journalists there. They are, I hate to steal the term, but fair and balanced. I see it on both sides from the Post. But I read the New York Times now, and it's like I can't sit down and read an article and just enjoy it because my antenna are already immediately going up.
Well, one of the biggest laughs was in the New York Times front page headline yesterday, attributing the storm in Texas to global warming.
Yeah, well, somehow they've got to blame it on Trump. Somehow, right? The weather. Chris, I know you're from Tyler, Texas originally. I do want to talk about that, but I wanted to. Yeah. I thought this was interesting. YouGov came out with a poll yesterday. They typically do this, by the way. Generally, a month after a president leaves office, they'll give you a look-back poll and sort of give you a pulse on where the country is. Donald Trump, by far the most the popular Republican president ever. I think he got something like 36% of the 36% of the vote. Ronald Reagan was second with 18%. Pretty unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. And if you look at it, you remember at the beginning of the campaign that President Trump, candidate Trump at that time, said that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he would not lose support. And we're seeing that post-presidency. I think that's also part of the reason why Mitch McConnell made the statement that he made about Trump, which was unnecessary. I think he is trying to play to the donor class and the cancel culture peoples, and he wants to make sure that his candidates in 2022 have plenty of money. So I think that's the reason why he was riffing on President Trump in that statement.
So I got to ask, and I'd love to go around the room, and you guys are coming back with me in just a moment. But Mark, do you think that we talked about it last week? You know, the president would, the House would impeach him, the Senate would acquit him. That happened, and it might have the opposite effect and actually generate sympathy for Donald Trump and help to kind of reunite the Republican Party. Is that happening?
I mean, there's plenty of chatter on cable and inside the Beltway about Donald Trump's diminished authority over the party, diminished popularity. Polls just don't bear that out. He has got an extraordinary hold on the views, the imagination of the rank and file, the grassroots. And Mitch McConnell's great at the inside game, but mostly the outside game trumps the inside game.
You really think Mitch McConnell's great at the inside game after what happened in Georgia?
Lose his position as minority leader based on what he said about President Trump. And I don't think he will.
Well, I just feel like he's made a misstep with the things he said on the Senate floor the other day. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell might be the most disliked man in D.C. right now. He's disliked by many in his own party based on what he did, going and saying he thought Trump was guilty after voting not guilty. It just didn't. They felt it was no purpose in doing that if that was the way he was going to vote. And then he is extremely disliked by Democrats who said, why didn't you do this before? And why did you vote not guilty if that's the case?
Betsy,
so,
final thought?
I think related.
But he is regarded, I don't care for Mitch McConnell, and I abhor what he did on the Senate floor this weekend, but he's regarded as very skilled, as an insider, because most Republicans still applaud him for getting Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court, handling the whole issue of the Supreme Court, Garland, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. He did a masterful job on that one issue that was very important to his party.
Thank you, Betsy. Emerald, I did not mean to cut you off right there. I thought you were all done, and I'm getting the hard wrap, but you guys are coming back with us.
Me too.
Emerald, you get the very first question when we come back. You ever heard the term Fauciing? By the way, Fauciing is a new thing. I know Mark knows all about this, but Fauciing is the new thing, and we're going to talk about that after the break. So stay with us, panel. We appreciate it.